Okay, welcome to the Business Boardcast. Today, don't forget it's a bank holiday weekend. I'm very lucky to have joining with me Michael Potter. Hi, chaps.
Hello.
How are we?
So going to talk about growth story. Oh, sorry, I've got to remember that. So we've got an amazing growth story. They were in the Sunday touching on that. We can be through lots of different things about their whole story, about the bad and the ugly, but just so that you can understand some great tips from them. And it's just really interesting, exciting story as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. So if I can just start, can you just tell me a little bit about Curve Workplaces and how you got involved in it in the first place?
I'll take this one. Curve Workplaces, we're a design and build office fit-out company. So we work with occupiers and landlords and investors. So anything that's office related, industrial building related as well, but essentially we're a construction business, but we design the office layouts and for the clients as well. So we're a full turnkey solution. In addition to the construction side, which is Curve, we also have Furniture Forum and Forum Lighting. So they're two complementary businesses which are owned by Curve. So that's us. And that, in terms of how we got involved, well, we've both been involved in the design and build industry for a long time, and we worked together at one of our larger competitors before, as is often the way. And Andy had done something before and was going to, and had that itch to scratch about having his own business again. And I too wanted the change to, work for myself rather than being an employee. So we both talked about doing it, and looking, and concurrent to that, I was talking to a friend of mine, someone I used to work with a long time ago, who had a sole trader furniture dealership, which was Curve Workplaces. So we made the decision in 2016 to change or transform Curve Workplaces, the small furniture dealer, into a design and build company. And that's what we did. Have I missed anything?
Brilliant, thank you. Yes. So yeah, it's a phenomenal story. So just a bit of housekeeping as well, though. Please do ask questions as we go along if you're watching live on LinkedIn Live or YouTube. If you're watching on one of the catch-ups, love to hear your questions as well, but we'll have to come back to you later. But just do DM us, because we always love to hear from you. So that was just a brief overview. That's how you got involved. You were already in the sector, but decided you wanted to be going it together, but out on your own and be running your own business. And it's been a phenomenal growth story over the last 7 years now already. So it's flying by. But those first few years were particularly interesting because you were picked up and you were seen by the Sunday Times to be in their top 100 fastest growing businesses in the UK. So tell me about how did that happen? Just tell me the story. You were telling me about it earlier, so it's a really good story.
Well, I guess the simple answer to the question is that we did something like 2.5 million in our first year, 6 million in our second year, and on the back of that, we sort of attracted a bit of local attention, I guess, in the regional press or regional property press, and we won a couple of awards 2 years in. One was a fast rising property company award from the Business Magazine, and we also won an award when we built or designed and built Make-A-Wish's offices in Reading. And I think on the back of that, and some of the traction that gained, I think the Sunday Times picked that up. And when we posted sort of 10 million quid turnover in year 3, I think that's kind of what got their attention. Michael I think you got an email out of the blue saying, can we have a look at your last 3 years accounts, please? And this is who we are. And Michael sent that through, and I think the rest then just sort of followed from there. So the simple answer to the question is we don't really know how they picked it up, but we suspect it was picked up by our growing reputation in the Thames Valley.
Yeah, I think the lesson there is that the importance of what we did early on in the process. I mean, our route to market is via commercial property agents and project managers and building surveyors, and so we don't always know who we're going to be working with in 6 months' time. So therefore, on the occupier side certainly, but we do know who our influencers are going to be. So so there's little point in us being a household name. That we don't need to put our name on the side of a bus. That would be a waste of money. But so the one little amount that we did spend on PR was in terms of the local professional press in terms of what we do, and that which has an involvement from the Thames Valley Property Awards and other such things that were key to our route to market. So that's definitely something that is a lesson that we'd advise on that.
That's really great learning of really, focusing your market in the right area and the right, understanding who your clients are and who your referrers are as well. That's great. So one thing which I thought was really interesting that when we were talking earlier was lots of people talk about, we have this vision and this is how we make it happen and things. And that's not necessarily played out exactly with how you've done your growth. So tell me about how does vision and growth, what sort of work out with Curve? What has been the momentum behind? Was it vision or is it something else?
Well, I think in my case and Michael's case, it was, I think Michael touched on it earlier, a little bit of unfinished business from both of us. We had, fairly senior jobs in a pretty corporate business in our sector. Both had very nice lives and both could have very comfortably stayed doing what we were doing for the duration, really. And I think from a personal point of view, I'd had a failed business that had gone the wrong way in 2007, 2008. So I think for me, I wanted to prove to myself and others that I could do something, that had some sort of real value to it, and that we could build something. I think in Michael's case, it was, Michael had also been in the corporate world and had a desire to be slightly more entrepreneurial. In my case, it was about going in with the right business partner, and so Michael and I worked together at a previous firm. And so in answer to your question, we didn't have a vision other than being able to do something slightly differently in a regional market and have a different offering to the commercial property market, and that's I think what we gave. And we didn't expect to be in the Sunday Times after 3 years, and probably didn't necessarily even expect to be where we are today. But so the vision was, let's create something and then see how quickly it develops, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I think from my side, it's I'd worked for a large global property consultancy before, and had then went into the design and build side of the world, which I thoroughly enjoyed and was well looked after at our last company. I think I had a desire to do something on my own. My father's never had a job, he says, but he has had a job. He's always worked for himself. So I've been kind of surrounded with it. And I know a lot of people say it, and I think there's some truth in it. It just doesn't feel like a job when you're in control of your own destiny. I think had we both done it in our sort of mid-20s and, all guns blazing with business plans and visions and all the other stuff that you read in management textbooks, then we probably wouldn't have got to where we got to. Not that I'm saying that any of the management theory is wrong. It's just that we had a clear vision of that. It's relatively simple what we do. We need to understand who we need to do it for, and then we need to do it. Now, I know that sounds complicated. It doesn't sound very complicated, but the reality is Andy's from a business development and sales background. I'm from a business development, a bit of sales, and also a consulting surveying background. So I think it's fair to say I understand some more of the technical bits than you do, Andy. Is that that's not too unfair? And then we had Mark, who had the furniture, which brought the furniture piece. So together, complementary skills really, but fundamentally, I think Andy and I both know how to find work and where the work is, because without that, we could have been the best project managers, builders in the world, but without a pipeline, it's kind of irrelevant. So the business has grown in that way as well. It's one of our key hires, sort of 18 months, 2 years in, was a business development chap that used to work with Andy at Morgan Lovell, with a chap called Paul Scott. He was a critical hire to us because it provided resilience to Andy's business development efforts, and we've kind of gone from there. So,
in the same way, I think many years afterwards, probably 3 years after Paul's arrival at the company, we employed an operations director, again from a competitor in London, who's now been with us for 3 years. And again, so from a point of view of our reputation was always a strong front end, both design and sales and business development. And I think what Tim's been able to do is to also create a sense that from a delivery point of view, Curve is a real safe pair of hands as far as the end product is concerned. So it kind of complements. So key hires are really important, and those were two big ones.
Yeah. So it's finding it and it's delivering it, and it's simple to say. It's remarkable how many people get that wrong.
Yeah, indeed. And I just want to sort of develop a bit more on that area, because growing your team is a big barrier to growth to a lot of people, because of it's so hard to recruit and that over the last few years. So, but whereas you've managed to grow, if you share of how big your team and things, also, so it'd be interesting to hear that. But I know that you guys got a really good team culture. So what has been sort of magic sauce for you of building that team culture and attracting those really critical hires over the last 7 years?
I think, and going back to the earlier point about the time in our lives that we were doing this, I think that's because we've been around a long time, we know a lot of people, we have a lot of experience, we know what sort of person works in a particular role and what doesn't. Andy's led teams at other competitors, and it's and also knowing people. So we've hired, as you'd expect, some people that we'd worked with in the past, or we've worked with people that have known people that have worked with in the past, and so it's about connections really, and that's a sort of critical part. Like I said, if we'd started it earlier in our lives, we wouldn't have had that experience with which to make those sort of decisions.
I think we've both worked in corporate businesses, Nicky, where sometimes when the economy is strong and growing, people, especially corporates, will hire without too much due diligence. And I think when you're a business our size and growing in the way that we grew and are growing, I think you just got to be brave about waiting for the right person to come along. And invariably, it's not always the case, but invariably when you see somebody, you either know them and that you know what they are, or if you don't know them, you've got a good feeling about them. And hiring is a difficult thing to do, and we pride ourselves in the fact that we make some very good hires, and I think that's often because we won't compromise, and we'll wait and we'll do without rather than have somebody that might not be able to do the job or dare I say even be disruptive if they do come in.
Yeah, indeed, because even though you've got your background in corporates and everything, it's a very different culture to a fast-growing SME. So somebody that might thrive in that culture might not in your firm. So you're absolutely right to be very careful about the hires. We've touched a bit on business development, but I'd like to dig into that a little bit further because I know that you guys are exceptional at it, and we've had a question come in as well on it, which sort of can perhaps leapfrog from that. So Nick has asked, as a business, do you run any events to educate potential prospects? So yeah, as part of your business development, is that one thing that you do, or is it different types of events? What do you look at for events?
Well, we're always evolving in this, actually, Nick. But historically, if I deal with the past first and then go talk about what we're doing at the moment, we've previously done events for work providers as a thank you, and whether they're golf days or so they're not necessarily educational. I do think there's something in learning curve though, and but that's another thing. But what we can do is we are starting to branch out and start to educate people. So we've a chap that works for us is from a different background to all of us, and that's James Cracknell, the Olympic gold medal winner. Now he's as well as doing that and a few other things, he's also he was on the sustainability committee for LOCOG in 2012 and he's sat on a number of different government committees. Now that's an area that we're doing more on. So for example, is scheduled to do a talk at a large property consultancy around neurodiversity and the challenges that he's had. And the built environment is obviously touches everybody in every way, every day, particularly if you work in an office, and well-being and ESG come together in that sense. So we actually haven't done anything to answer the question, but we do have a number of things in the pipeline, which will be either led by James or led by me, Andy, whomever. But it's certainly something we've never liked the phrase thought leadership and things like that. It strikes me as a bit boastful. But I think we do have a story to tell, both in terms of how we operate as a business, and also, but also how our business can impact upon other people's in terms of what we do. And James is a cornerstone of that, alongside the expertise we have here in terms of designing and building offices. So that was a very long question.
Brilliant.
Very long answer. Short question.
No, but it was great. Very thorough answer. So if you were pulling out the various things that have worked, what would you say have been the main key ingredients for helping you have, I'm going to say, sustained growth? I know it hasn't been it's not a straight line growth curve, but what has been that thing that has kept driving it? What are the key things that you think are essential to your structure? Besides, of course, having a really nice accountant.
Yeah, that's my answer gone, Nikki. Sorry, you'll have to go to Andy now.
I think if we're going to give ourselves credit for anything, I think the one thing I think we've done right from the beginning, and Nikki, we've known each other for as long as this business has been going, and we always laugh about us sitting in your meeting room when we've done literally nothing, and you asking us what we were going to do in our first year, and us looking at each other and not really knowing. So it's but if there's one thing I think that we've done well is plan 6 months, 6 to 9 months hence. So I think it's a real bugbear of mine in as much as we're halfway through our financial year at the moment as well, and all the planning that we're doing now is for next year, which is obviously from the 1st of October onwards.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I think we've done well, and I think we've been agile enough as a business of our size to be able to adapt to the market. And we have 2 different types of clients, I guess, in Curve. One is the landlord clients or investors, the investment side, where a lot of the work we do with landlords is working in buildings with the big funds. And then the other half of our business in Curve is end user stuff. So, and I think we've adapted well to the market changing and more landlords being more proactive with their internal fit out works. And we've made plans accordingly. So whether that's in pre-contracts, design contracts, business development, sales, all the various different departments, I think we've planned well. So if there's a reason why I think there's a reason why we have been successful, I think we've actually what I call Starbucks time, which is basically sit down in Starbucks and have your cup of coffee and think about where you see this thing going in 6 to 9 months, and I think we've done that better than most.
And I think
that's true.
Yeah, I think it's, and that's the extent of our planning as it goes. And when we have looked beyond that, that's when the plans don't work out. And so, my aim is, end the week better than you started it. And if you keep doing that successive weeks, then you're going to head in the right direction. But that 6 to 9 month window that Andy talks about is critical to that. We need to have both personally and professionally, we need to have an idea about where we want to get to in our lives. But really, that we need to take care of today first, and then the rest will follow.
Yeah, so that's really good. 2 really good tips coming out from there. So really detailed 6 to 9 month plans, and everyone knows that I love planning. So that's really good to hear, and to keep on top of that and keep going back to it and re-looking at where you are. And adaptability, that, especially with how businesses have been over the last few years with Brexit and the pandemic, there's so many changing conditions. Being adaptable, that's where the entrepreneurs really succeed. We've got another question coming in, which is an interesting one from another Michael. What are your staff retention rates with that growth level? Good question, Michael.
Well, this will lead into something else, Michael, as well. But so the staff retention rates, we've had 2 to 3 people out of 30. We currently have 33. We've had 4 maybe leave over that period.
Which is over 7 years. That's phenomenally good retention.
Yeah, a couple have left because of a change of circumstances within the business, but I think 2 out of that 4 have left willingly. So we've managed to take quite a few people on the journey. That's employees. I think it's probably it's worthwhile pointing out what hasn't gone well as well while we're on this, and it actually prompted from Michael's question around. We did have and around planning that Andy talks about, our medium-term plan is has always been critical to us. We have had a long-term plan before with 3 individuals around succession and bringing in management, additional management. Now, those chaps have left because that didn't work, whether their aspirations were misunderstood by us or whether our aspirations for them were misunderstood by them. I don't know, but either way, they're no longer here, and they are a significant overhead to the business, and the business is in a stronger place as a consequence of their departure. That's not to say anything about their performance or anything like that, but it was either too much too soon, or the wrong people in the wrong place, and that could be including Andy and I. So there's no finger pointing here. It's just around it didn't work. But they're going off to do their thing, and we're doing ours, and everything is all, it's, possibly one of the thing. It's something that has strengthened the business over the last 12 months because our growth had slowed. So that was a mistake that we made, either doing it or the management of it. I don't know.
So it's a very common problem, though. I mentioned I sat down with another business, similar sort of growth trajectory. They brought in somebody to try and bring in people that they could take it up to the next level, etc. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. These things happen, and then it's just important to go, well, do I look at different people, or do I go in a different way, or do we look at something else? We've only got a few more minutes, so I'm just going to take another couple of questions right at the end. It will be good if you sort of share your perhaps your top tip for success for your business, and it can be something that you've already said. It's just highlighting again, and also it's just interesting to hear that if there's something that you would do differently if you were doing it again. So we've got Michael's busy today. Michael says, do you spend time, Michael, I don't think you were listening right at the beginning, because we did touch on this at the beginning. We'll go through this again. Do you spend time, I can josh with this, Michael, and he teases me too. Do you spend time explaining the vision to your team or more senior managers?
We explain it. We sit down with everybody once a quarter and we explain what we're doing in the next year every quarter. So everyone's up to speed with it. More sensitive stuff is discussed with just the shareholders, the very sensitive stuff, just the shareholders, and then the less sensitive stuff with the senior management team. But in essence, we're a fairly transparent place, and we'd kind of lost a bit of that with the middle management involved.
No, I would just say categorically yes to that question.
Yeah. Excellent. So if there's any more last-minute questions, do push them through. Otherwise, I'd love to hear from Andy and Michael about what's their thing that they would do differently if they were, restarting again, if they were in a time machine back 7 years ago, and what would be the thing that they would the absolute must-have or would definitely do again?
I think for me, I'll be brief with mine because I know we're getting close to the end. But for me, it's all about who you hire, and when you hire them. We have sort of principles or values in the business that we try and stay true to, and one of the key ones is just be brave, especially at the front end of the business. When you're in front of a client, just be brave with the client, and sometimes ask questions that are easier not to ask. So I think with us, with recruitment, you need to be brave at times, and you're not always going to get it right. But I think we've been brave and we've been patient, and for me, it would all be about the people that we have under this roof.
Yeah. My lesson learned is trust your gut. Your first thought might not always be right, but your gut generally is, and it's, you've got to make sure you align, your values are aligned with, and again, it's coming down to recruitment. And so initially trust your gut. And if you do good things, money will follow anyway. But if you go away from your gut and money becomes the greatest motivator around recruitment decisions, then that way madness lies. And regarding a tip in terms of management and things like that, I think the one thing I try to do, I mean, I do this by nature anyway, but just be consistent. There is no point in acting like a sergeant major 1 minute and full of what people call banter the next. It's people don't respect it or react well to it. So I just try and be consistent. I won't make everyone laugh or every day, but equally I don't shout at everyone every day either. So it's just a level of consistency. I think it makes people more comfortable. They know where you are they know where they are with you.
No, that's a really good tip. Really good tips. That's brilliant. Well, we've come to the end of the time. It's flown by. Lots of really great information there and stories. Thank you so much, Michael and Dan. Hope that's been okay, not too bad for today. And thank you very much. Thank you for your great questions. If you are watching on Catch Up, please do feel free to DM any of us with any questions. Michael Potter or Andy Wilkinson at Curve Workplaces, Nikki Larkin at Greenwich Accounting and Succession Planning. And yeah, enjoy your bank holiday weekends, and join us again next Friday at 12:30. Thank you very much. Cheerio.
Thank you. Bye-bye.